Thank you very much. Distinguished panelists and speakers, dear participants, it is an honor to deliver the closing remarks of the Tokushima International Consumers Forum 2021. Despite the time difference, I could follow a large part of the discussions and would like to congratulate the Tokushima Prefecture and my friend Dr. Nakahara for the organization of this very rich and informative event. I agree with the analysis and conclusions of the keynote panelists that I could consult. These align with the results of the recent Economist Intelligence Unit commissioned by WWF, as well as basic facts that you can find on the UNEP or EU websites. Consumers, first of all, are more and more concerned and aware of the rising social and environmental challenges. Professor Harrison tells us that in the UK, the proportion of ecoactive households reached 22% in 2021 and is expected to rise to 56% in 2031. 49% of the consumers in the UK feel that sustainability aspects have become more important following the coronavirus pandemic. Second important point is that ethical and green consumption is on the rise, as was expressed by many speakers today. 26% of EU citizens often buy environmentally friendly products. 54% of them sometimes do. Environmental impacts are the third most important factor for EU consumers after quality and price. From 2013 to 2018, the number of products marketed as sustainable grew 5 times faster than products that were not. According to the report from The Economist, the popularity of internet searches for sustainable goods around the world has increased by 71% in just 5 years. Even in the midst of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, that number has continued to grow. And last fact is that rise isn't limited, and it's important to note, and we had many interventions attesting to that today, the rise isn't limited to developed nations and advanced economies. The report found a similar trend in many developing nations and emerging markets as well. Ecuador, for example, has seen a staggering 120% growth in consumer clicks for sustainable goods. Undersecretary Castelo from the Philippines showed us how environmental awareness was rising in this country. The rising demand for sustainably produced goods is pushing companies to implement ambitious sustainability measures, and politicians are following suit. That's a very important point, is that when consumers are educated, they can make a pressure on politicians to adopt the right policy framework. This is key conclusions that we should bear in mind. And we have some of the most ambitious policy making in the most advanced countries because they feel the pressure from consumers, and this has to be extended to other countries. The industry has been pushed to change as a result of consumer demand. Over 50% of C-suite executives surveyed by The Economist say that consumers are driving the focus on sustainability, for example, in the fashion and textile industry. And they are first followed by environmental activists. As a result of this pressure, 65% of the businesses surveyed have committed to sourcing sustainably produced raw materials, and 60% now collect data on supply chain sustainability. More than 1/3 of 250 business executives said they could not keep up with consumer demand for sustainable products and services, and 62% declared that sustainable investments were motivated by consumer expectations for green products. So consumers are going faster than the market, than the capacity of producers to supply those green goods. However, consumers are concerned about greenwashing and have trouble identifying green products. 39% of consumers say business claims about the environment are not accurate. Only 6% of EU citizens trust producers' claims about their products' performance. And 48% of consumers say current environmental labels are not clear. Greenwashing can also be applied to states which are projecting a green image, a false green image, for example, through the organization of Conference of Parties for the Climate without even having carbon regulations. This calls for increased regulations and policy making from governments and intergovernmental organizations. In face of the current accelerated environmental degradation and global warming, education efforts and increased awareness raising will not be sufficient. Governments have to act quickly to establish the right policy and legal frameworks. They have to do that to establish a level playing field. The business community itself is calling for this enhanced regulatory framework. They have to regulate the consumer information market and, when needed, directly manage or control eco-labels to ensure credibility and transparency. And they have to foster mandatory sustainable public procurement and encourage sustainable procurement throughout supply chains. And they have enforced, of course, to support education efforts at national and subnational levels, as you clearly indicated today. Many governments are revising their policy frameworks to support sustainable consumption and production. The EU is developing a sustainable products initiative, which will be part of the European Green Deal and will revise the eco-design directive. New regulations will force companies that want to sell their products in Europe to meet tougher sustainability regulations, so it will have an impact throughout the world. And I will conclude by saying that countries need to use multilateral and cooperation frameworks such as the UN FCCC Conference of Parties to find fair, just and effective agreement to address the dire challenges faced by the planet and its people and achieve the 2030 development agenda. More than ever, we can quote the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Arigatou gozaimasu.